Gentlemen, welcome back. I got a new job. I work at the blue hard hat place now. I do try and keep my YouTube and my work stuff as separate as possible. It's not always the most realistic, but I say it's a new job. I still work at the same company. I'm just transferring from sales back into operations. I'm starting a new office. That means I get to procure a bunch of equipment, and my procurement guy has very generously let me play with a Doble F8300 to test drive to see if I like it, and then we're probably going to wind up buying this unit here behind me. And I haven't heard much about it. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I know they've been released for a couple years now, and I haven't seen a single one out in the field. I don't know why. I mean, Doble makes excellent products. It's the successor to the F8300, which has been around forever. My entire career, I've been using one. I'm a protection suite guy, but it should work identically on RTS as a 6150. The F8300 is just the new, improved, fancy modular version of that. So, yeah, they said they could get it for me cheaper than one of the older test sets. So might as well give it a shot. Let's see if we like it. We'll see if it works for what we're going to need. I do want to talk about the key features of it, the upgrades relative to the 6150. It is a modular unit. You can take cards out, put cards in, and sort of tweak it to fit the application that you're going to need it for, which is pretty cool. It's one of the big selling points for it. I am going to run through and actually test a relay here on my bench today. I'm actually taking this out in the field on a job tomorrow, so I want to make sure that it actually works and does what I need it to do, so I'm not totally hosed on my job tomorrow. And then towards the end of the video, we'll sort of wrap this up. So as I said, this was provided to me as a field service manager, not as a YouTuber, to test out, see if we're going to buy this, because I think we are going to wind up buying this one. This video is not sponsored by Doble. It's not sponsored by my procurement people. It's sponsored by me. So the biggest thing with the Doble F8000 series, or this one in particular, is the F8300, which has one slot up here and then 6 modular slots down here. Every single channel in here, so every single one of these little units, can be taken out and replaced with either another IO logic and transducer unit, one of the HVA voltage units, or one of the HVA current units. So you can have basically any combination. I think this setup makes the most sense for just sort of generic relay testing. I mean, you should be able to do basically everything that you're going to need to do with it. If I had to change anything about it, or I wanted, one extra spare module, I might get another one of these logic IO modules to keep around. That might get swapped out with this at some point for some applications, but if you look at the top of a 6150, it's got an absolute crap ton of IO, and this one only has 4. Now, these are 4 convertible ones, so this could be 4 digital inputs or 4 digital outputs, but sometimes that's just not enough for what we're doing. So I might consider buying a spare one of these to keep in the case. The next, the biggest thing, and I would say the biggest improvement over the 6150, is this command module right here. So every chassis is going to come with one of these. So whether it's the 8300 or the 8000, it's going to come with this command module. So you got your nice little power button right here. It does have a color screen. It's an upgrade over the old fluorine tube or the LCD screens that the 6150s have. The reason that this upgrade was really brought about is specifically for use in digital substations. IEC 61850 equipment just requires a lot more connection than older relays do. So we've got a GPS antenna. You can directly connect a GPS antenna, IRIG-B input for time sync in your substation. We've got a couple convertible fiber ports, obviously your old LAN connections, regular USB. We do have a USB-C, which is nice. This is USB 3.0. And then, your standard, a regular USB-A 3.0 port, as well as, I think this is gigabit Ethernet, which is really, really nice. So we have a lot more options, a lot more connectivity on the top of this. native to the unit, so we're not trying to do a bunch of wonky workarounds here. All of the plug terminals have a little LED ring around them, and it's got a convertible color code system. I'm not a big user of color coded cables or anything like that, but it's important for newer guys. It can definitely limit some of the confusion. This little LED ring will change color depending on how you set it up in Protection Suite or RTS. And I believe on the voltage channels, if you short them, it'll turn red. And if you open the current channels, it'll also turn red. So it'll sort of help you identify which wiring errors you may have while you're testing. On the HVA voltage modules, we can use either two 150 volt, 150 VA voltage outputs, or you can combine them sort of like how we used to do on the 6150, and we can use one of these as a single combined 300 VA 300 volt supply. The way that it's configured now, I can do 6 150 volt outputs at 150 VA each, or 3 300 volt output at 300 VA each. The current modules are a moderate improvement over the way that we had them on the 6150 in addition to being modular. So I can have out of each current module, two 25 amp 150 VA continuous rated, or combine. Each module can put out a combined 50 amp at 300 VA continuous, which is pretty sweet. So the way this is currently hooked up, I can either get 6 25 amp 150 VA outputs or 3 50 amp 300 VA outputs. In transient mode, this is where the real improvement is. It'll run, each one of the modules will run 90 amps at 300 VA for 30 seconds, which is pretty incredible. That's a lot of power we're getting out of here. And then each module can run 50 amps in DC output mode. Over here, you'll find this familiar. We've got a battery simulator terminal. This will run 6 to 300 volts at 90 watts. And we do have an exposed ground here. This goes essentially straight to the ground pin on the chassis. So I did want to mention real quick the boot sequence on this is a little bit unusual. So we got it plugged into the wall over here. There's a power switch right here under the plug. And you notice the fans didn't pick up, but the light on the command module did. We hit that. And that's what boots it all up. Then you get all those fancy Happy Christmas lights. That's a good sign. But it'll take another minute or two for the display to come on, and then once the display comes on, then you can connect it to your software. Jesus Christ, that was a brutal 2.5 hours to get connected to this idiot. Okay. So generally, when I'm testing with the F6150, I'm always connected over Ethernet. If the device has an Ethernet port, I always use that. It just works, right? You can connect to it. It makes the most sense. I can set a static IP address, and I never have to worry about basically any of the USB nonsense not working or not having enough bandwidth, whatever. Like it always works, right? I have done so many troubleshooting steps. I basically have lost count. I tried this on my big gaming PC that I use all my video editing stuff on, that I normally record my videos on. Didn't work on that one. It runs Windows 11. I'm like, maybe it works better on Windows 10. So I tried it on my work laptop, which is running Windows 10. Didn't work on that one. I tried my personal laptop from a billion years ago, which is running Windows 7. It also didn't work on that. I tried multiple Cat5 cables, multiple USB-C cables. I changed all my adapter options. I read this setup article that Doble has, a little quick setup documentation thing. No real help there. I set a static IP address. I couldn't ping it from command prompt to the USB port, which I thought was kind of odd. I obviously tried using the USB-C port. That didn't immediately work. The IP address for the USB-C port didn't immediately pop up over there. F8, for whatever reason, does Ethernet over USB-C. I don't know why. that's what they chose to do. I tried that. It obviously didn't work at first. Their little troubleshooting thing said if you have the USB-C cable plugged in and then reboot it, sometimes that works. Tried that. The IP address for the USB-C port popped up. Still didn't work. Couldn't connect to it. I tried a few other things. I tried to like network through the USB-C port. I couldn't ping the address on the F8, even using the USB-C port. I tried a couple other things to like network to that address. Couldn't get to it. I read the help article in Protection Suite very thoroughly, and it's got a couple of troubleshooting steps that I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense that it wouldn't work. You have to set specific ports, specific TCP and UDP ports, allowed access for basically any connection over any network to those specific ports for Protection Suite. I tried that, did all the setup, basically turned my firewall off. That didn't work. I finally called Doble. Of course, it's Sunday at 3 p.m. That didn't work because nobody answered the phone. Actually, 30 minutes later, I called them a second time, got to the receptionist, and the receptionist couldn't transfer me to a tech support person either. So that wasn't much help. I don't know where we're at on the troubleshooting steps that didn't work, but I was finally able to call my procurement guy who got me the unit, who called another guy, who called another guy. I think we're 3 layers deep. And they finally sent me a troubleshooting guide that I cannot find, for the record, on Doble's website anywhere, that shows you how to update the USB-C driver so that you can connect to the unit over USB-C. I swear to God, it is the most asinine thing in the world because it's a driver that is installed with Protection Suite that Windows makes you find manually. I hate it so much. I'm this close to throwing this stupid test set right in the fucking bucket. I am so goddamn mad. Anyway, I'm going to save y'all a bunch of time. It took me 2.5 hours to do this. I'm going to save y'all a bunch of time. I'm going to show you exactly what we need to do. I already got this working on my work laptop, which is good because I need that for tomorrow. I'm going to do it on my PC at home. We're going to run through it step by step. It's not that hard, but it's a pain in the ass to get here. Okay, so we're going to launch Protection Suite. A couple things to note. You need Protection Suite version 2 or newer to use the F8 units at all. So I'm on 5.3.1. I think if you're on 5.3.2 or 5.3.3, whatever the newest one is, as of September 22nd, 2024, if I was one revision newer, so if it's 5.3.2, I would also need to install a firmware update on the unit to get them to talk to each other, which is infuriating. Anyway, I'll show you what we're doing. I think I still got my screen recorder on. Normally, what you should be able to do, I would click F8. Serial port's grayed out. Like I said, it uses it uses Ethernet over USB, and it should connect automatically. Click the little drop down, it hunts automatically for it. Should work. If you have the right IP address in here, you have to verify. Should also work. None of that works. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our device manager, devman, and then we go to ports, common LPT. Now I'm gonna double check that this is the right COM port here. Should be COM4. All right, so it is COM4. Look at that. We're gonna right click on this and hit update driver. And we're gonna browse manually. The driver is already fucking installed. It's just not the active one. So we gotta go, let me pick from a list of available drivers. I have a disk. We're gonna click browse. And again, I'm doing this on Windows 11. It might look a little bit different if you're on Windows 10 or 7, but it's the same process. Now we're gonna hunt for it. It should have installed wherever your main drive is. It should be, for me, it's gonna be game SSD? No, main C. That's my boot drive. So yeah, main drive, your C drive, program files 86, and then we're going to go to Doble Engineering, Protection Suite, 5.3.1. That's what I'm currently using. Again, you have to use version 5.2 or newer to do anything with the Doble F8 series. If you're doing 5.3.2, you have to be on a more up-to-date firmware on the unit in order to do anything with it. It's kind of annoying. They like match the firmware with the software as they go forward. Hopefully in the future this will all be smoothed out. But anyway, yeah, F8, and then we're going to click on this. This is the actual driver that was already installed with Protection Suite that Windows just refuses to run. I don't know why. We're going to hit next. It's going to install successfully. And then 25411. It worked on my other laptop, so I might have to go back to it. Oh, all right. There we go. It just fucking works. I'm fucking mad, dude. I don't know. That sucked. And I still haven't even fixed it, right? Like I still haven't even connected to it over Ethernet, which I would like to do. Jesus Christ. All right. I don't know. I'll follow up later. Maybe I'll be in a better mood with some coffee and some food. Okay. So I figured something out, and I think I hate it. I hate it so much. So I think by default, all of the ports are disabled. And I can't understand why. So the Ethernet ports, Cat, whatever, RJ45, Cat, whatever ports are 3, 4, and 5. So ports 3, 4, and 5, you need to go to the network configuration tab. Again, you have to connect to it with the USB-C to get to this page to enable the ports. And then we're going to go port 3, port 4, port 5. I'm just going to turn them all on. I don't care. And then click set F8 port configuration. And now I should be able to, let's just ping it first. Ping 10.13.100. Yeah. Okay. So that works now. We have to enable the ports on the network ports on the front of the thing. Let's see if we can connect now. So if I go 10.1.3.100. Okay. Yeah. 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 Ew. That's fucking terrible. I hate it so much. Gentlemen, welcome back. It's now Wednesday. I've had an opportunity to take this beast out with me in the field. It was not great. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I really wanted to like this thing. I really thought that they'd had it figured out. It's been on the market for I think at least 2 years at this point. It doesn't feel like a mature product, and let me roll through why I say that is. So Sunday, I had a couple issues communicating with it. Obviously, all of the I say obviously now, it's obvious in hindsight, but at the time it was super frustrating. All of the Ethernet ports were disabled. I don't know why. That makes absolutely no sense. You had to communicate to it with the USB-C port. And then in order to do that, you have to have Doble's USB driver to talk to it, which does not automatically install when you run Protection Suite or when you install that. So I don't know what's up with that. That was super annoying. Anyway, Sunday night, I was able to get it up and running, and it worked reasonably well. I was able to push some voltage and current into a 751. It looked like it was good. I didn't see anything, outstandingly annoying with it. It worked. I was able to program little LED gimmicks on the terminals. It was cool. And I did nothing else between Sunday night and Monday morning. Monday morning, I get out to a job site, and it didn't work. I started having all sorts of crazy issues. Every time I would fire it up, I would run a macro or run the control panel, and I would get a different error, a different fault. It was really weird. I called Doble. I called my procurement guy. I was, tossed around to a bunch of different people.
everyone was very apologetic and very polite about it, but they're like, yeah, we don't know. I have to escalate this to somebody else. And then it got escalated to somebody else. And it got escalated to somebody else. And eventually they're like, oh, it sounds like it's a problem with the module in the VA channel, or they're not row 2, column 1, whatever they call that. It sounded like it was a problem with the voltage output module itself. And it's the first one. Now, in the control panel setup, or in the default configuration setup that you can do in Protection Suite, I'll put a screenshot of it up. I can turn these off and then just use the currents, except I needed at least one of the voltages, one voltage channel for what I was doing. And it was the first module that was disabled. So they wound up telling me, oh, you can pull this module out and swap it with this one and then mask off, the number, whatever that would be, number 5 and 6 channels. In the voltage, you can turn those off in Protection Suite. And so you ignore your bad module and use a good module that has to be enabled. This first one has to be enabled. Of course, I was in the field, so I got to deal with the fun process of being all dusty and dirty and grimy handed and peeling this rubber thing off and taking the front cover off and then pulling the actual modules out. It's not difficult. They're obviously meant to do that. They're meant to be, removable and swapped around and all that. But it was just annoying that I had a module fail on the very first time I had it out in the field. That was not my favorite experience. After that, I was able to get it up and running. I have, at this point, a couple other gripes with it. So I was running Protection Suite. In the troubleshooting process, I was told by a Doble rep that I had to upgrade from version 5.3.1 to 5.3.2 just to rule that out. And then also had to update the firmware in here, which it's not the end of the world, but it wound up being like an hour-long process to do on the field. And, that chews up time on a job, having to do all that troubleshooting. So that was really annoying that I had to do. And then it wound up not even resolving my issue. So just another complaint about running just an immature product out in the field when you're on a time crunch. So that was super annoying. My last complaint, and I think the final nail in the coffin for me, the reason that I'm not going to keep this unit, I'm going to send it back to my procurement guy and just tell him to get me a 6150. It didn't run good. I had a pre-made macro, a pre-made test plan for the relays that I was testing, and it would run perfect on the first, 5 or 6 tests in a row. And then, the next one, it would say, hey, I'm outputting voltage. I'm ramping. It's going from 105 volts to 115 volts, right? And I would run it and it would fail. And I'm like, what the fuck? It worked on B phase. Why isn't it working on C phase? And I'd run it again and it would fail. And it would run it again and it would fail. I'm like, why is my relay tripping? And I look and my relay's not getting any voltage at all. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I hooked a fluke up to it. And despite the front panel saying like, oh, it's outputting, 105 volts and then it's ramping, it wasn't outputting anything at all. So I don't know what happened. And all I had to do, I would close Protection Suite, fire it back up, run the same macro, the same exact configuration, and it worked. So I don't know what's going on with that. I've never had that particular kind of issue with the 6150. I've never had any of these issues with the 6150. So I'm just going to get one of those. Yeah, I guess we'll close this video out. Sorry, I'm in a rush. I got to catch a flight in like an hour and a half. So I'm trying to wrap this video up before I have to drop this back off at UPS on my way to the airport. A couple final thoughts about it. Should you upgrade? I'm going to say no, unless you have a very distinct reason to use this over a 6150. Unless you're like, I need the advanced communication stuff to support IEEE 61850 testing at a digital substation. It's a reasonable excuse. This definitely has a lot more modularity. It's easier to run a satellite clock. It's easier to connect to a GPS unit or whatever you need. It's got more ports. It's got the fiber port things. That's kind of cool. The modularity is nice. I just can't really see that being like a huge benefit to it. A couple other things like the fit and finish. This is designed to be rack mountable. It's designed to fit in a 19-inch like relay rack, which would be cool. I guess if you're a college or a university and you can just fit this in the rack with the rest of your relays, that is not a consideration at all for me testing crap out in the field. It doesn't make any sense. That's not a benefit to me. And actually it's a bit of a detriment because if you look at the side of the unit, this thing's heavy. There's no freaking handles on it. This little rubber thing just like rolls up if you've got to pick it up in the field. So like it's on the ground in front of a relay panel, and I got to move it to the next relay panel. I have to like tip the whole thing over and squat awkward. There's no handles. There's no way to pick it up. I don't like that. That kind of sucks. This like rubber thing around the outside, it's okay. You just got to wrestle with it. It keeps popping off. The bugs have not been worked out at all. Having to constantly worry about firmware upgrades and, protection suite versions not talking to each other. Like that's a stupid problem that we shouldn't have at this point. And then just a couple like dumb old man gripes that I have about it. The bag that it comes in. So I usually wind up getting like a big ass Pelican case for all these. The bag that the test set comes in, it's got a little pocket for the lead bag, and then the test set goes in here. This bag is horribly unergonomic. You can't really carry both of the things at the same time. It just kind of sucks. If I did buy one of these units, which I'm not going to, I would just throw that bag away and get a big ass Pelican case to lug the thing around in. The 8300 is different in every single dimension from F6150, so you would need a new Pelican case for it or a new flight case for it. Your old one's not going to fit, so not exactly like a drop-in upgrade. And then my last grouchy old man upgrade is this stupid lead bag. So in the with the older lead bags that Doble would send out, and this is such a minor thing, that's why I bring it up last. The old bags was just a bag, and you would toss the leads in there, and then if you had to cram it into a flight case or cram it in next to your relay test set or whatever, you could sort of just like massage the bag around to get all the leads to lay flat wherever you're cramming it in. It's got like separate pockets and stuff that everything has to be zipped down into all tight. And so if it's going from, the back of your truck and it's all mushed out or whatever, you didn't pack them in perfectly, and then you go throw it in a Pelican case, it's going to take on that weird shape and is never going to be flat in the new thing that you shove it into. So you have to like pack this really carefully, which is such a minor gripe compared to all of the other things. But I don't know. It just speaks to like the whole process, the whole thought process that Doble had here. Like, hey, we have a really, really good, very popular product. Let's tweak it and make it a little better. And in doing that and adding all these dumb little gimmicks to make it a little bit better, it got significantly worse and harder to use just across the board. So I don't know. Maybe your mileage would vary. I would highly recommend against grabbing one of these and throwing it out in the field right away. If you need the upgraded communication stuff for doing IEC 61850 digital substations, I get it. It's nice. That part of it is nice, but I can't in good faith recommend this as a reliable tool to use out in the field on a time crunch. It just doesn't check enough boxes for me. It's not a big enough improvement over the old one. Just stick with the 6150. It works great. Yeah, that's all I got for you. Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube crap. I appreciate your support. This video is not sponsored by Doble. Go figure. Peace out. Thanks, guys. Stay safe.